well. Kathleen Keating, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, Art. Thanks for having me back on, and thanks to Premier.
Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Your phone has a little hum in it.
That hum has been with me so long, I think I'm going to have to pay child support. It's terrible.
All right, we've got a lot to talk about. The first thing I think that we ought to cover is there were a number of people, Kathleen, who ordered your book, and I've had emails from some of them, and they still have not received your book. So I guess what we ought to do is tell the book's story. You're aware there are people out there who have not yet received it?
I am, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that they get a book. I've taken...
Do the wild thing at 775-727-1295.
to get the books to the customers. It's really grieved me because it's been a horrible year. These poor people...
Oh, so, okay, so in other words, put another way, for some reason you have separated your relationship with the...
Right. They were in breach of contract because they couldn't fulfill their shipping.
Okay, so that held up the book for how long?
Well, that didn't hold the book up. They got the book out eventually. They were just inundated by your listeners and were overwhelmed, and they dropped the ball. And when they finally picked the ball up, UPS knocked it out of their hands.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have a letter here from UPS, which I think I want to read on.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Region.
You bet.
All right, this is written to one of your customers, somebody who bought your book, and it's an official letter from UPS. It says, "Dear customer, on behalf of United Parcel Service Canada Limited, please accept our sincere apologies for the problems you have experienced during the delivery of a novel called The Final Warning by Kathleen A. Keating. I want to assure you that the fault in making timely delivery was entirely that of UPS and not Picasso Publications, Inc. or Premier Radio Network. As a result, we wanted you to know that UPS takes full responsibility for this error and has taken measures to ensure that this does not happen again. We value the trust that you place in UPS and look forward to the opportunity to serve you again." And signed by a Vice President of Legal and Public Affairs for United Parcel Service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's an amazing letter. What happened when your book got to UPS?
They were getting ready to ship the books. They had a book distributor here in the U.S., and all of the orders from your show went to New York, except for one box that had 10,000 invoices in it.
10,000.
10,000 invoices, and that box stayed missing for 4 to 5 months, sitting in a supervisor's office somewhere in one of the UPS terminals.
Oh, my God.
And when they finally found it, and I think it was September or almost October, they shipped it to the wrong book distributor, a distributor that didn't even have my book. And they consequently opened the book or box and found out that they didn't handle the book, so they sent it back to Picasso. So it just delayed it and delayed it further. And I've been making attempts since midsummer trying to get people their books, and it's just been a terrible wait for them. I still hear from people that haven't gotten the book yet, and I'll do everything I can. We've got attorneys on it in Canada, or solicitors rather, that are after the books. They're going to try to guarantee that these people do get their books.
All right. Now, for those who do not have their books and wish to tell you they don't have them, how do they get hold of you? Is there an email address?
There sure is. They can email me at KathleenKeating.com. That's Keating. Kathleen@KathleenKeating.com. Or they can write to me in care of Post Office Box 352, Ainsworth, Nebraska, AINSWORTH, Ainsworth, Nebraska, 69210. And I'll be happy to take your complaint through the attorney and to Picasso to make sure you got your book. We have had some results with this art. We've gotten people their books just by sheer persistence. I've even gone to the point of buying books off of Amazon.com, trying to fill orders myself, but I just don't have the money to do that.
Wow.
Picasso isn't paying me
I am
either.
capable of carrying additional supplies, if necessary.
I apologize to everybody that ordered a book that didn't get it, or anybody that had to wait for it.
Well, other things have happened. I just read the big terrestrial happening. I mean, 10,000 invoices, poof, from UPS. But bad as that was,
there is room
other
in my
weirder things have happened with your book, too, haven't they?
Just amazing things. There have been people that have been reading the book and suddenly had a craving for Chinese food, although they hadn't had Chinese in 3 years, got up to go get the food, and a ceiling fan came down right on the place where they were sitting on the couch reading a book.
Really?
Really. People have had gotten the book in bookstores. They've placed it in a bag. They walked out to the car, and the bag would be empty. They'd go back into the store, and two clerks would say, yes, we put the book in there. I saw this lady do it, and I helped her, and they had to give the person another book. They've disappeared off of car seats, dining room tables.
This is downright weird, Kathleen.
Oh, it is. Really strange. And one kid came home with the book. He finally got the book. He was just delighted with it. He found it in a bookstore. And his dad, who was a NATO officer, said, you're not allowed to read that book. You know, and he said, why? He said, you just can't have that information in that book. And so that started another whole mess.
What is in the book that would fit into that category that would cause somebody to say, you're not going to read that?
It's a very explicit roadmap to the future, and a map that a lot of people don't want us to have, but we need to have it in order to get through.
Do you require?
I mean, there's a lot of strange things going on.
There are a lot of strange things going on in the world right now.
Uh-huh.
When you say a map to the future, give me a little, go ahead and take me on a little road trip here into the future and tell me how far we're going.
Prepare for combat.
We're going in right to the utter brink of Armageddon. We're going headlong into the third secret of Fatima, like it or not, of all the horrors that go with that, the earthquakes, the uprisings, the wars, the nuclear annihilation of a major U.S. city, a massive earthquake that will take out a Midwestern city and swallow it whole, the UFO invasion, the New World Order that's coming. We're being steadily moved on a daily basis towards that end. We're being moved into internment camps that are waiting for us, guillotines that are not an urban legend. They are there. They are real. We've got eyewitness reports. We've got government informants talking about them.
Guillotines.
Guillotines. And it's not something...
They're going to lop our heads
now
off?
we're talking.
Well, just as the Bible says, it's
Beg for mercy.
the believers will lose their heads. And it's closer than anybody dares imagine.
Well, so it is a pretty heavy book. Maybe, can you imagine that a parent might consider that information too heavy for a youngster?
Well, he wasn't that much of a youngster. I think he was well over 21, but still a kid, to me,
But I mean, could it be that, do you think? I mean, this is pretty heavy info.
It is, but I think it's something that you have to have. And I think if you love this country, if you love your family, you need to read what's in there, because it's government documentation of what they're doing. We've got Russian defector statements in there of what Russia's planning. They're not a beleaguered nation. They're thriving militarily. They're letting some of their people have a very rough time to meet that. But it's a bad scenario, and we are doomed to be invaded by Russia.
Kathleen, how close were you to Father Martin?
Close enough that some of his intimacies would make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Yes, I know. I was that close as well. Without being able to say everything that I know about it, I will ask you, as I have many others, this question. The third secret of Fatima supposedly has been revealed.
Do not attempt combat
as
with
you know.
us. You will not survive.
In your opinion, has it really been completely revealed?
No, what they released last June was a lie, an outright lie. The document that they released was too long for Sister Lucy to have released it. We know that it was on one piece of paper. It didn't contain any of the specifics regarding the third secret as far as the chastisements that the earth would see. It made us think that the Pope being shot was the fulfillment of the prophecy when nothing could be further from the truth. It was filled with misconceptions. I was notified by a Vatican intelligence officer before they released that secret exactly that they would be releasing a bunch of gobbledygook that was meant to mislead and to mollycoddle people into thinking that we passed the bullet, it's not going to hit us. We're not doomed as we think we are. And I'll be darned if that document that was released wasn't word for what the intelligence officer told me.
But that would mean that the Vatican told us a bold-faced lie.
Not all of the Vatican, and I don't hold the Holy Father accountable for that. But there are people in the Vatican, as you well know, spoken to Malachi about that. That people are doing some strange things there and manipulating.
But wouldn't the Pope have had ultimate authority over any release of the third secret?
He does, to the point of directing something to be done. That doesn't mean that people are obedient to him. And in May, when he was in Fatima, he gave us a very big clue that the dragon was raising its ugly head. And that was straight out of the book of Revelation to tell us. And that's part of the Fatima secret, the rise of the Antichrist. He tried to tell us there. And when the secret came out, the false secret in June, it was so much like pablum that it was hard to imagine that John the 23rd passed out when he read it, and that a 10-year-old would be frightened.
No, that's quite true.
Yeah.
And you know that Father Martin said, and he said on the air about the third secret, that if you can imagine the worst, it's much worse than that. It's beyond your imagination of possible.
Even if you were to take your imagination, the worst that it could be, or whatever movie, and multiply it exponentially, it still would not be as horrific as what we're going to go through.
Now, as bad as the assassination of a pope is, it would not be described in that magnitude by Father Martin. Popes would not pass out when they read it, that sort of thing. They do.
No.
So it's obvious that we didn't get the real McCoy.
No, and nor would Father Martin have sworn an oath not to say something. He had very serious knowledge of what's coming, and you know when he relates things. So it's something that is not only a paradox, but definitely designed to hurt us in the end, to keep us complacent and to think that we're okay.
Kathleen, what do you know of the contents of the real third secret?
I never asked Father Martin directly because I didn't want to put him into a bad position. I asked him to tell me in generality. I've had it confirmed with other people as far as what's contained, and it refers to very specific chastisements, both spiritual and physical. Just horrible. You know, not only the rise of the Antichrist, the destruction of the Catholic Church, save a remnant part, terrible UFO problems that are coming, horrible earthquakes, just tumultuous earth changes that nobody can even fathom, one right after another and some simultaneously.
And is all this leading to something, to some crescendo, or is it just a long period of time and we will experience some little piece of that unfolding?
Well, we are every day, aren't we? I mean, we're seeing the shootings occurring in schools, and some psychologists are even calling it Manchurian candidate kids, that they seem to just go off at opportune moments. We've got the earthquake in Seattle. I was fascinated to find out in the Bible code it even had 6.8 on there, and I think we're just going to see, one prophecy is that we're going to see mountains split to the ground and just disappear. If you think of the United States, we're going to be split in half. We're going to be invaded by the Chinese and Russians. They're working together. Just horrible things. The heads of Americans will be on the light poles.
Somebody sent the following. I read the final warning. It was enjoyable and informative. I'm sure you cannot read God's mind, but why do you suppose the first 5 books of the Bible are in secret code for only a select few, those who can afford special decoder software from your net site to interpret them, when all the rest of the Bible is readily available for all of us to understand? Why are the first 5 books encoded?
Well, I think that was the book that Daniel talked about that would be closed until the end days. And I think that's through the advent of computers and so forth, we're seeing that book opened. And I think that's to prove the mind of God, how great it is, because we're going to be hearing that God didn't create us, we were dropped here. You know, there are other alien beings that deposited us here as an experiment. Oh,
that's been going on with Zachariah Sitchin and many others for a very long time, Kathleen.
Sure, and they're going to try through this deception to debunk the creation theory and to debunk God. And I think that when you look at the Bible code, yes, the software is expensive, and it's really too bad because I wish it were public domain. Because what is in that Bible code is just, it's not like a Ouija board that you can predict the future, but it certainly has the overwhelming evidence of a God that's so great and so beyond our imagining that, there's just no doubt that he exists.
Have you ever wondered, Kathleen, what if you're wrong? What if the Zechariah Sitchins are right? What if so many others who can prove ancient civilization at a time when there should have been no humans on the planet? I want to bring some of those people on. They have very compelling arguments.
They do, don't they? And,
yes.
And a lot of them, you start to listen to it, and it seems to make sense. But in the final analysis, it won't hold up. Just like anything else, it's going to look good for a while, but in my heart of hearts, and I know in Father Martin's heart, we knew. You just know that it isn't going to be what they say it is.
Or what about was? In other words, that our beginnings are not as described in the Bible, that Genesis is not the way it all began, that evolution is, in fact, a scientific reality.
Mm-hmm. I think if that happens, Art, if that comes about and people accept that, I think they will readily lose their minds within a short period of time, because I think God is the glue
that holds everything together?
That holds us together. And when you remove him, as we're finding out in this country, when you remove him from schools and the courts, we're going to suffer for it. And I think that our minds will not be able to fathom the fact that he isn't there. I think we know he is in our souls. I think we're imprinted with that. And I think that when this deception comes on, it's just going to make a lot of crazy people.
Well, a lot of people say that wars, so many killings are done in God's name.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are right. There are a lot of people that have died in wars
absolutely
fought with God's name, and
absolutely
a lot of people who do very terrible things always claim to have God on their side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's not right. You just can't kill somebody in the name of religion. That's not what it's about. But a lot of people misuse that, and we're going to have probably the biggest battle of religious hobnobs in the history of mankind very soon. We're all going to go to this one faith, and we have to do it this way, and it's going to be a terrible debacle.
All right, I was talking earlier about the shooting in Santee.
Mm-hmm.
One 15-year-old boy walks into a school bathroom with a pistol and starts shooting his classmates.
Right.
Kills 2, wounds many more.
Mm-hmm.
A 15-year-old. I was told that he smiled as he did the shooting.
Right.
That he smiled, Kathleen.
Right.
Now, I ask myself whether there really is an evil, honest to goodness, external evil force, as we think of the devil or
mm-hmm.
Lucifer or I don't know, whatever name you want to attach to it, a real external evil force. You believe there is, don't you?
Absolutely. I have experienced it, and I know it's there. I know it's real. I know people who they've had it up close and personal. Father Martin certainly had it.
Yes, Father Martin saw it.
Yeah.
Father Martin did exorcisms and dealt directly with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one instance in your life when you, too, dealt directly with it, wasn't there?
There was, when the Antichrist came to visit.
All right. Only in America. The Antichrist came to visit. We'll tell that story.
Reach Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye at 1-775-727-1222. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
It is. Kathleen Keating is here, and let me give you a little warning. It may not be a final warning, but it's a warning. A lot of what you're going to hear this morning is going to be somewhat disturbing for some people, obviously. We're talking about the final days. We're talking about the chastisements, the third secret of Fatima, things that are pretty heavy for a lot of people. And if it's heavy for you, then, turn that radio dial. Get a little extra rest tonight. Some of it is pretty scary stuff. Once again, Kathleen Keating, and I guess I will issue that warning again. If this kind of thing disturbs you, you might want to tune out. It may be the kind of thing you don't believe in or don't want to hear, and I understand that. Kathleen, you're back on. You actually had an encounter with what you believe to be the Antichrist, right?
I did.
Can you briefly tell that one more time?
Sure. Let me first say I was doing some research for my book and some other projects I was working on. And the Antichrist, we read about it in the Bible. We know that some figure will arise. But I started to pay attention when exorcists were debriefing the demons that were being exorcised. And under those conditions, Art, they have to tell the truth. The demons have to be honest. And a lot of truth comes out. And they more or less confirmed, without any doubt, that the Antichrist is a real person.
You know, just before we do get going with this, I remember in the movie The Exorcist, and you're right, once the Exorcist had begun, the demon or the devil or whatever it was in that girl, and that was based on a true story, by the way, folks, began to tell the truth. Horrible as it was, it began to tell the absolute truth. It said who it was and all kinds of horrible things, but the truth. Why is that? In other words, why are they forced to suddenly tell the truth?
Well, under the power of God through the priest and with the holy water and the crucifix in front of them, they cannot deny the truth. They have to tell the truth. They are bound by laws. There are laws, you know, in heaven, on earth, and in hell, and they are bound to follow them.
There's even laws in hell.
Absolutely.
That's a new concept for me. Laws in hell. You think of hell as kind of anarchy, I guess, chaos.
It is, but it's controlled to the point that people are asked to perform certain duties on demand. Certain things have to be done on demand. They have laws, and there are definite rulers down there.
It figures.
Yeah, you can't get away from it.
Yeah, it figures. It just figures. All right. Well, anyway, you were working on your book, which was the final warning, right?
Right.
And what happened?
Well, I had been doing some research as to the Antichrist and his identity, and I ended up, I don't know why, I suppose stupidity, calling his organization and doing...
Wait a minute. Well, listen. His organization?
Yeah. He has an organization that's international. It's funded by the UN and West London banks.
What?
Yes.
The Antichrist?
Yes.
Has an organization funded by the UN?
Yes. He even has a whole program dedicated to him by the UN and now the Dalai Lama.
What?
And he is helping people in third world countries, helping them with money, building, so forth, especially down in El Salvador after the earthquake. He's got these people all over the world, and the UN is helping because they know the plans. They know that he is their Messiah.
Why would the UN want to assist the devil in any way?
They don't think he's the devil, Art. They think he's the return, the Messiah, the one.
So, from what you're telling me now, the Antichrist must be alive on Earth.
He is, and I saw him. And I think it was...
Let's go ahead and finish that story, and then we'll backtrack.
Okay.
That's the question.
Okay, well, I interviewed his people, and I don't know why, but they asked for a phone number where I could be contacted, and I gave it to them. And a couple of weeks later, it was really early in the morning, and my dog had to go out, and nobody else in the house was up, so I got the duty to do that. So I got up, took her out, and I was in my pajamas and opened the back door and let her out to go down. And she's quite a guard dog and very, very feisty and barks a lot and doesn't tolerate anybody messing around her house. And there was this guy standing in the backyard.
This region is not suited for biological life forms. It does not possess the resources required for your survival.
Guy, and I was like startled because there I was in my pajamas. It was embarrassing, you know. But the dog couldn't bark, and it was disturbing to me because it wouldn't take anything for her to cross a lawn and
Could he easily have walked into your backyard? Do you have an open backyard?
No, it was totally fenced in.
Totally fenced.
Totally
so
fenced
here's
in.
This handsome guy in an Armani suit in your backyard.
Yeah, and in western Nebraska, that looked really odd.
Oh, way out of place.
Way out of place. And there he was, and he was about 6 feet, 6'2", trim, and a good-looking guy. And he said hi. And
You said what?
yeah, he said hi, and I didn't say a word. I kind of closed the door because I thought, who is this guy? And I got a good look at him, and I thought, Oh my God.
Warning. Enemy activity detected.
The purported Antichrist. And my heart started going a little bit, and I thought, what do you do? And I looked at my dog. I was hoping that she was going to do something. She couldn't move. She had one paw up in the air. She tried to bark. You could see her trying to move her mouth. Nothing came out of it. Nothing. And you couldn't silence this dog if you tried normally. And he kept walking back and forth looking at me. And I looked at him and I really didn't want to make eye contact because I'd been warned that he has very hypnotic skills. And I didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything, and he just walked back and forth. And when I didn't say anything, finally he walked off into thin air.
You saw that with your own eyes?
I did. And I looked at the dog. She looked at me. She ran back up, and it was like, did you see that? I shut the door, locked it, and then my neck started to get a little weak. And I thought, well, Kathleen, you know, are you seeing things or not? And I did some investigation in this, and somebody else had had the same occurrence, only he had knocked on her door.
Really?
Yeah, she was an author in England writing about the same subject I was, about the end times and the rise of the Antichrist. And sure enough, the guy pulls up in a Beamer with a guy in army fatigues. They knock on this woman's door, and she opens the door a little bit, and he asks her, and she knew who he was.
You are not statistically likely to survive this encounter.
Your life.
Really?
Really. And she said, no, thank you. And the guy in the fatigues turned to the Antichrist
Enemy
and said,
located.
well, why don't you just go in? The door is open. And he said, I can't. Because her soul apparently wasn't open to it, and that's what I've been told by several people.
In other words, you've got to agree. You've got to give consent.
Again, it's a rule of God that if it's evil, you have to let it in.
Well, all right. Now let's back up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You said you called the Antichrist organization where in Europe?
Well, I called him in the United States.
In the United States?
He's everywhere. He lives in
Is it like 1-800-4-EVIL or what?
Well, I could tell you what
No. Don't give me the, maybe you better not.
Well, I could tell you. Well, I think a lot of people know. I mean, I certainly got emails from your show when I released his name probably next summer.
No, I don't
And
think...
you may not want to go there.
I may go there, but I want to talk to you privately.
I don't blame you.
So there's actually a phone number for the Antichrist's organization.
Yeah, several of them. I mean, they're all over.
Okay, then let's try this avenue of attack. Why would you have left your phone number with them?
I don't know. I mean, it was like totally stupid. I guess, you know, I had no idea that they would be coming back at it. You know, I didn't even think about it, and I guess I was so lost in the research, it was like, well, you know, come on, they're not going to remember me from anybody.
Hey, listen, you can give your phone number to companies that sell meat, Kathleen, and you will get calls for the next 2 years trying to sell you meat.
I know, and I've been duly chastised since that happened. You know, so I don't give out my number now to anybody.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So they actually did they call you back?
Well, no, they never did.
Okay, so they just used your phone number to get to you.
Yeah. I had a very lengthy conversation with them, several hours of investigative work with them, and they were very obliging. Of course, they don't see him as the Antichrist. They see him as the Messiah.
I didn't know the UN recognized anybody as the Messiah, and they don't officially, do they?
Well, they're beginning to. We've certainly seen with the United Religion movement, the push to it. We're seeing that the one world religion is moving forward. And certainly the Antichrist and Gorbachev are working together, and the people in the UN know about it. There's floors dedicated to this.
Well, I've seen all the movies about evil, and it seems to me that people like yourself, working on a book like you did, end up with 2x4s through their chest.
Yes.
And other equally horrible things. We
have had some very bad experiences, and I've also been bribed, so to speak. I didn't take the bribe.
Bribed in what way?
Some of his people contacted me, and just, you know, when the book was going wrong, everything wasn't going right, people were upset.
Yes.
I was going financially under, and it was just wonderful. How would you like to change your life significantly? with unlimited funding.
Really?
Yeah, and I had it on more than one occasion. And it was, oh, brother, and it looks tempting because they don't come at you as being perhaps part of that organization. They come at you as being very Christian people, so to speak, that want to help you out, that, you're doing a good thing to them.
Well, how do you discern?
That's very difficult. I made a lot of calls and did a lot of investigations into what they were saying and who they were, and I was able to track down that they really were tied to him. And it was only by the grace of God and through a lot of prayer that I didn't fall for it, because it really would have been bad not only for the book, but for myself personally, my family, and our souls.
So you think then, I remember that Father Martin said that he could recognize people who had made their pact with the devil.
Absolutely, and I can too, in some instances.
He called them the perfectly possessed.
Yes.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said he could actually walk down the street and recognize somebody who had made that deal. And it was a subtle difference, but something that he could recognize immediately.
I have gotten so that I can, and I talked to Father Martin about this because I had a couple of instances where I saw a man who was in the position of a police officer. And he came to the house, and when he looked at me, there was nothing but abject evil in this man. I wouldn't have even called him a man at that point. There was something in his eyes, and he was a friend of my husband at the time, and I said, he's not coming in the house, ever. And he said, don't be crazy. I said, no, I'll prove it to you. And I contacted Father Martin about it, and I said, is it possible for a person to see absolute evil in another person?
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. And since then, I've acquired perhaps more of physical reactions to people that aren't good people. My stomach will flip-flop. I get kind of an electrical charge around me that I can feel that, and I guess that's common.
I think we've all felt that.
Uh-huh. I don't
do.
think I'm special in that at all.
Well, here's another thing for everybody to think about. I guess certainly it's not universally true, but if people make pacts with the devil, and it's a thing they can do very easily on their own, if they crave something, if they crave a great career or success or money or some material thing in this world, and they make their deal, then more times than not, Kathleen, our most powerful people, our leaders of industry, successful people in the media, Hollywood people, you would have to imagine there would be a higher percentage of the perfectly possessed among this group than the poor and the down and out.
Absolutely, and you know why? They go for ego, and when you start seeing our leaders with their egos getting out of check, I think that's the first sign. Pride goeth before the fall, so to speak. And I think that we can recognize it more and more in our leaders when that ego gets so inflated that they have no scruples. Whatever they do is right. And certainly the Antichrist people certainly confirm that they're in touch with our leaders on a daily basis. It's no surprise.
Well, I'm not sure everything they do is right, but most of what they do is successful for them personally.
It will be on Earth. They will thrive, and usually these record deals are amazing, aren't they? I mean, some of the money with ball players and so forth, and you really wonder, not that all the ball players are bad that are getting $100 million, but sometimes somebody just does one thing and they're almost a billionaire overnight, and they seem to be living a charmed life.
But it might not be the kind of charm that we imagine it to be, huh?
No. And I think that there's a charisma that goes with that charm that blinds people to reality around them. I think that when people try to scrutinize leaders and so forth, that they tend to be, sidetracked in investigations. Certainly we've seen that in government recently.
But if you look at modern American politics, how, for example, do you get to be a congressperson, a senator, or even more so with the presidency? How do you get to these high offices without lying, cheating, making deals with the devil in a sense because you need money? And so you make deals. I mean, politics is the art of compromise, which is a nice word to cover a lot of sins.
It is, and if you belong to certain organizations, as many of our recent leaders have, those organizations have given themselves completely over to the devil, and so that they're just acting out the part. I'm not so sure, Art, that it matters who gets elected anymore, as long as, we know they're all members of the same club. It's just which road they're going to take and which part of the club they represent.
Well, if you believe that, then it's like it's all a gigantic conspiracy, and it really doesn't matter who's elected, because they're all sort of, as you point out, in the same club. You believe that?
I don't want to believe it, but the more I've seen, and certainly my current research has indicated that it is one big conspiracy, that there are good people involved that may not be totally cognizant of what's going on, but the major players are well aware of what's going on and what they have to do to achieve it.
So there are dupes for the devil, and then there are direct servants of the devil.
The devil uses everyday people like 15-year-old boys to carry out certain tasks to achieve an end. The devil can get us through money, ego, pride, whatever. It's all connected, but the bigger players can be manipulated, and I think a lot of them are going to be betrayed by the Antichrist. Certainly prophecy is indicating that a lot of them will be killed. But they're all playing into the part that they're going to have a lot of money if they do things, if they deliver this or they deliver that. Clinton was to deliver the peace in Israel. He had a big paycheck not the Nobel Prize, but a big paycheck from an organization that wanted to see that come about.
So the devil then will lie and lie and lie to get to his end, whatever you want to call it, his end.
The devil is 90% truth and 10% lie, and that's where they get you. Because a lot of people, we use the rationale. Well, if they're right about this, they've got to be right about that. They're telling the truth here; they must be telling the truth there. But it's that 10% that'll get you every time.
So, in other words, most of the lies that are really good lies have some little kernel of basis in truth.
Sure.
And from there, the lie is built. Is that it?
It is.
Okay. All right, Kathleen, hold on. I'm going to split for California for a very short time, and you'll have Ian Punnett here Friday night, Saturday morning. Therefore, I will schedule open line segments. I will find time. If I have to do rescheduling, I guarantee you we will get open line segments in. The single most requested open line segment, by the way. Remember I suggested last week that you tell me what you would like? Well, leading the pack by far is the Antichrist line. Second to that would be time travelers. But for some reason, there is a great fascination with the Antichrist and those who may be working with or for him. And Kathleen, you're back on the air again. I'm going to choose, I think, not to air the organization, the name of the organization, nor the name of the Antichrist. However, it is both, I guess, are on your website?
Yes. All the information is there, although the website went down about an hour ago.
It did?
It did, but it should be back up. And I've given enough clues in the final warning as to who it is. At the time when I wrote it, I couldn't name him. But there are enough clues that anybody looking for him could find.
You have now done so. And, it's interesting. The person that you name was to be, you're not going to believe this, that person was promised to me as a guest.
I believe it.
Do you believe it?
Yes,
it's
because
true.
They want your power on the airwaves.
It's true. That person was promised to me as a guest. They would not unveil this person to the world on my program. They had promised that elsewhere, but right after that, they were going to allow me to have this person as a guest, and you're telling me this person, we both know who we're talking about now, is the Antichrist.
Yes, but he wasn't going to be unveiled on your show that way. He was going to be the Savior.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're correct, was going to be unveiled as a Savior, but that person you're saying is the Antichrist, and when your website does get back up eventually, people can go to it and find out who it is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I even have the Bible code referring to it.
How did you come to get involved in the Bible code business, Kathleen?
It was another tool of research, and it was brought to my attention by a lot of researchers and theologians And I thought, well, maybe, I'd take a look at it. It may not have been anything that I thought was going to work out, but the more I got into it, the more I thought that, boy, this is the real article. I don't know if you work with it at all, Art.
No, I have not yet. I mean, I know, obviously, something about it, but I don't know what it reveals. So assist me, Kathleen. What do we find as we begin to look through the front of the Bible through the eyes of the decoder?
Well, first of all, God dictated the Bible to Moses letter by letter with absolutely no spaces. And I do believe that Daniel was given that information as to what this would reveal to us. I mean, if you take a look at Dick Cheney, for instance, just because of what was in the news today with his heart,
yes,
he came up in the Bible code. And I've got it up on the website if it ever comes back up. And he's listed there as a vice president with his wife, Lynn. Her name is there. Heart is listed. Power, the UN, apparently. Upheaval and war, and just fascinating things. Now, there are 5 paths for every person in the Bible code. We have free will, so whatever we choose to do with our lives is reflected in the code.
Again, people would ask, why would God encode anything? Why not just let it be plain words, easy to understand for all?
Because I think it would impinge on free will. I think that if we knew our futures, we might not make the same decisions, and we certainly wouldn't learn from our mistakes.
Again, why then put it in there at all? Why would God put it in any form, including an encoded manner?
In our time, I believe that lies are so prevalent that the truth will be a scarce commodity. It already is becoming that. And I think that the code certainly gives us the fact, and I mean, it mentions that God is truth. It gives us a foundation that he's real, that he cares about us, that people that, Aunt Sally is listed in the Bible code. Not everyone's in there, but a lot of events are. And things that couldn't possibly have been known other than in the mind of God. And I think that we're going to need that badly to know that he's real.
How are you able to validate that the software that breaks down the truth or the message behind the message is valid?
Well, through trial and error, and I think that you can confirm it with rabbis who, of course, know the Hebrew backwards and forwards, that they can find the code if they know where to look.
I would be leery of going